for clinical evidence generation and decision making. So I'm just going to open it up. Talita, do you want to add something? And then.
Sounds good. You did a good, good summary of the intention of this meeting now. So I think we have like a few topics that I would like to discuss today, but then if others feel more like also adding new topics to this conversation, please feel free. So I don't know if you want to, should we start with the first topic that we want to comment here today before we jump into the future areas of research?
Yes, absolutely. So we were thinking, and actually I think this is a actually perfect group, because we have a lot of like the old comers, like a lot of folks who've like been here and know like the ins and outs, and like also like some new folks. So we wanted to get like generally start about like talking about the perspective of like areas of engagement, how to get engaged, how to become like a more active community member, specifically like working on the clinical application or the clinical like epi side of the work that we do here. So I just really wanted to open it up to everyone, see like how everyone thinks about it, like, or like if it helps, I can start asking or like asking specific people question about like what are their perspective. How like one question that we had in mind, we thought it's good to bring it up, is that like if for a newcomer who wants to come and join the community and become active and contribute, what would be the steps? What are the recommendations? So and then like from their perspective, what would be the hurdles? What are the hurdles? What are the questions that they have that they haven't had any chance to ask, or like they have like anything that we can help, like this group can help them to get there. So maybe we start from there and then hear from some of people like Mark. I see you on my screen. You're right in front of me. Like for example, people like Mark to help us. I can still see you. So generally just like fun question.
Yeah, I think it would be great to also have people who've been in the community for longer to tell us also about their experience and how they got started in the community. So yeah, maybe we can start with the newcomers and then I saw, yeah, Miguel, you were raising your hand.
Yes, hi Talita, hi everyone. I imagine that some of you knows me because I'm participating in some activities in the OHDSI community. I'm a member of the vaccine safety group, and I'm involved in the EDEN project. My first question is a very naive question, but what do you mean with clinical applications?
I think, well, that's I think that can be very broad. When we were with Asieh, we had a brief meeting to talk about what were the things that we could talk about today. And one of the things that came up, and I think it's a good example of a clinical application of a work that we've done in OHDSI, was the prediction model that we created, for COVID complications. Back to at the start of the pandemic, that that prediction model that was used by some governments and clinicians to predict the risk of a patient to be in need of intensive services or having COVID or dying from COVID. So that, for example, for me, it's a good example, but I don't know if others have any other. I mean, there are probably many other things that we could think about, and maybe that's something that we could discuss later when we talk about which could be the main topics of future collaboration for clinical applications. But
okay, thank you, Talita.
Anybody else wants to comment on this, or I don't know, what is your perspective? What in your mind, Miguel? What do you think? For you, it's a clinical applications. It would be good to hear from others too.
Well, in fact, I was thinking of the different projects in which, in different studies in which we are involved in collaboration with the, for instance, with the European Medicines Agency, or some or other studies that we are involved related to the use of vaccines in COVID-19 with the OHDSI community. So in my view, or I thought that clinical applications, in fact, is any kind of possible applications using the OMOP tools. In fact, I think your example is very, very good. So I think it's very broad, as you mentioned. So not only clinical studies, but also prediction and so on. So, well, I think it's very broad. Yes.
I see there's some other hands. Cynthia?
Cynthia.
Yeah, hello. Could you mention some of the clinical studies that are ongoing, perhaps more toward the beginning of their project, that we could see if there's one we could jump in on and contribute to something that's already ongoing? Thank you. Over.
I
I'm
can
thinking
give
about
some examples. Yeah,
yeah.
and then Talita jump. But before I do that, like there is a November call, community call, when there's gonna be like introduction to some of the network studies or OHDSI studies that are ongoing or about to happen. So I think that would give us like a broader, or like hopefully like a bigger perspective of what is happening and at what stage they are, and like areas of potential collaboration. But like I'm sure like there's a lot happening that each of us know of, like a few here, a few there, so maybe we can share some, like just like within the working group. So I work a lot on oncology, so like and within the oncology working group we have a couple of so sorry, the call is in November 16th, so I made again 2 weeks from now. It's Tuesday community. So within oncology working group we have 3 ongoing studies, one in lung cancer looking at specifically liver metastases as a potential marker for prognosis. Pioneer study is still ongoing with like some news, like little pieces, like the characterization work is done, but like we have like other studies that are like happening, like occurring like from the protocol initiation, like right up till like the execution and the whole like integration of results. So that's like another opportunities to think about. There's like a bladder cancer study that we're thinking, and Talita is actually like putting together a study looking at the incidence of cancer. So these are the specific work that is currently happening. And there's also, there's a study looking at time to surgery and like specifically focusing on racial disparities. This is what I know in the oncology field, but I'm sure there's a lot going on, and so please jump in if you know of other studies that like you can introduce here for whoever is interested. So I can just say that for the oncology, anyone is interested here, like in just like being a part of the study, help, or trying to just like be a part of it in any of these stages, they're all welcome. Like can just like reach out to me, or like send us like a text, like in the oncology team channel, and we definitely link you with the appropriate person.
I just wanted to quickly mention the LEGEND study that you probably all have heard about, and we have Mark here. I don't know if you just want to say a few words about LEGEND, Mark, if you haven't heard from that project. I think that's going to be a huge one, and it's
I'm happy to provide a couple words. I was actually trying to make a list of some ongoing studies from OHDSI studies, but I'll get back to that list, or maybe I'll just point you all to the website. So we're just starting the second large-scale evidence generation and evaluation across a network of databases, LEGEND type study, this time looking at second-line treatment for diabetes. If you're not aware, most type 2 diabetics, treatment starts with metformin. And if that doesn't have sufficient glucose control, then the ADA, at least the American Diabetic Association, recommends starting one of 22 different agents across 4 different drug classes as second-line treatment. The newer of these agents have been shown through randomized controlled trials to have cardiovascular protective effects. And then, so they're marketed as these are really the drugs you should be taking if you're worried about cardiovascular risk, but no one is interested or actually able to do the same randomized controlled trials against the older agents. So it's quite possible that the older agents have exactly the same cardiovascular profile. But in addition to cardiovascular advantages, one wants to look at sort of different safety concerns, particularly those that are of most interest to patients taking these medications, like hypoglycemia, UTIs, fall risk, and then other more adverse events. The study is just kicking off, both for data partners who are interested in participating, but also for methodologists who are interested in pushing this research forward to find out what we can learn across the OHDSI network. That was a real quick introduction. I'm going to go back to the list we're making, and then we can pick up on some of the other studies that are ongoing.
Thank you. Yeah, and maybe I think it would be nice if we, because we don't have a lot of time. So I think maybe if you could send that maybe on the chat, like the list of or if there's a link of ongoing projects, that would be great. Yeah, because then now what we could do is use this half an hour that we have to also discuss, you know, possible future collaborations, which is the focus of this breakout session. I see some other hands. Let me see. There is somebody. I don't know who this is because it's 3532. This is the name I see on the screen. Do you?
Yeah,
I don't know who this is.
Okay.
No? Okay, there is Karen Jolie.
Yeah, that's me.
Just go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I figured out how to put my hand up. So going back and responding to the first few comments, I am a newbie, and I've now joined the education working group and the early stage researchers working group, and I think there's a lot of overlap. And when Asieh, how do I pronounce your name? I'm so bad at this.
Asieh.
Asieh. Apologize. When Asieh first, you know, kind of started introducing things, yes, I, as a researcher and as sort of taking the lead here at Brown, I would love to really have a list of what are the minimum things, what are the minimum OHDSI tools, what are the minimum things I need to have, how do I ensure that my data quality is up to par, you know, kind of that do this, do this, do this, do this to get ready so that when a study is active, you know, you're ready to join. And kind of related to that, we always struggle with funding here. I don't know if any of you struggle with that at all, and not having enough people. So, you know, kind of ways to you know, get funded to do some of this work. And then when I think of clinical application, you know, some great results are coming out. And so how do we work ourselves locally and globally into the learning health system? You know, we've identified some gaps. We're trying to address those gaps via the research we're doing. Then how are we going about feeding that information back, getting it into hands that can make it actionable? So those are my questions.
I was just writing it down. So you mentioned the minimum knowledge, right? That you need to participate in any, get started in any OHDSI study. I think there are different levels of participation actually, in, you know, from getting involved in the design of a study to actually, you know, leading a study. I think those things are so there are different levels of participation. I think, I don't know what others want. I don't want to be talking too much here, so I don't know what others wanna, if others wanna comment on this. but this is, I think, something that definitely the working groups of the education working group will be the focus of that working group, right? On getting people into the OHDSI tools and everything. So anybody want to comment on this?
Mark.
Yeah, I might make a very politically charged and maybe a comment that I'll regret ever having made. But here it goes anyway.
It's being recorded, just so you know.
The educational material that we currently provide and are discussing providing doesn't get you all the way across that canyon to executing a study. And that might be the personal preferences in terms of the education, people leading the education and what seems to be most important to individuals, or it could be the learning curve is very steep, and so we're focusing on that inflection point. But to Karen's question directly, like how does one get ready? My advice is you don't worry about getting ready, you worry about trying and doing. And if you can succeed, then of course you're ready. And if you can't succeed, well, then you have an explicit understanding of, what is my limitation and what question do I need to ask to whom.
And just to add to that very quickly, I think one of the great advantages of OHDSI is that it is a big community. And if you try, as Mark is saying, I think it's always easy to find somebody who knows much more than you about what you're trying to do. And I think that's, the great advantage of OHDSI is that you can easily get support, through the forums, Teams, or whatever. So, sorry, Asieh.
No. I just wanted to say, Mark, what you said, like Talita and I were talking about that, like we wanted this point to be brought up, like explicitly, that like it's not that we have to get here to be able to participate. It's just a matter of being ready to jump in. And as Talita said, the community is extremely supportive. And I say it because I know like sometimes it seems extremely overwhelming to jump. And but it's like jumping into very cold water. You jump and then all of a sudden you're in, and you try and you become good. Like eventually some people are faster than the other, but it's just the jumping, the first start, and it happens.
And participated in the working groups. I think that's also, a good way to get started. So there are so many working groups, and I remember when I signed in the form, I was like, yeah, I want to participate in this and that, but then at the end, you cannot be involved in everything, and then you need to accept that it's okay not to be involved in everything that's happening, and maybe choose one or two working groups where you want to be more active and really, get involved. I think that would be one of my also advice for somebody who wants to get started. And then you comment something about funding. I think that's something that, well, we always struggle, and I don't know, there's not much more I don't know if others want to say something about that.
I would really like to hear from other folks who have tried like funding, or have experience about funding mechanisms. But some of the things that we have been talking about, like specifically with oncology working, and like it might work, or we actually we're trying to do that, is to partner. So for example, Karen, like if there's something that like is of Karen's interest and Mark, and like we can always partner and put and we fund, like we find an opportunity, we just like tag teams and try to put something together, or try to just like frame it in a word. So that's something that we're trying to attempt. Like we're interested in doing some sort of an NLP. There is an NLP working group that's doing something. So like, how about like doing a collaboration and putting something together for a grant? But I really like to hear from others who have experience about like other potential funding mechanisms, because that's everyone's problem. Like everyone is like, it's sort of like we're all doing it like out of free will, but like of course like there are areas that we get to this potential, like this whole hassle of funding and funding mechanisms. Brianne.
So yeah. This is just to funding, and then there's a bunch of other people that have questions, but to the point of funding. So in the health equity work group, me, Jake, and Elise Worsell just have, like, I study HIV, so does Elise, and then Jake has sort of the computer expertise, and we wrote a CTSI pilot grant. We didn't get funded, but we got great feedback, and we're going to take that and apply for an RO3, which is a similarly small amount of money, but it's good for baseline information for then a larger grant later on. And R21s are also like moderate size amount of money, but would be like adequate for this type of work. You know, just places to start, because I think the other thing is, like, I don't know, and maybe somebody else here is more advanced than I am and more experienced, but how many of these types of studies go to NIH for review in the first place.
I have no idea. I don't think many. I would say not many, but some.
Yeah, so I mean, that means there's a place, right? There's a place for us to sort of like scoot in there and get their attention.
Sure, yeah, I think that's a good point. Always look for calls and where we can submit our work. I'm sorry, I see that there are two people who have had their hands raised for a long time. Judy, yeah. We wanted to give you the word before, but I didn't know your name. Yeah, sorry.
I apologize. I didn't realize I was listed as my email address. But anyway, good morning, and thanks for this opportunity to join you all. I actually have a long history with this group. Hi, Mark. I was the original FDA PI for the OMOP experiment, and if you go back to those early papers, I'm a co-author there. Currently, I'm with the Division of Hepatology and Nutrition, and drug-induced liver injury is a particular area of interest for me, and that's what I was trying to sort out. There are people in the VA who are doing work in the realm of trying to identify severe acute liver injury. Historically, algorithms based on insurance claims data are terrible in this for drug-induced liver injury, and the people at the VA have been combining, like Vinlo Ray's group at Penn, they've been, combining laboratory data with diagnostic criteria and whatnot. And way back when I was on a paper with Patrick and another fellow, I think, trying to come up with algorithmic definitions for acute kidney injury or something. But in any case, I'm interested to see if there are people within the OHDSI community who are interested in drug-induced liver injury and trying to use develop the phenotypes. I did attend one of the phenotype working groups, and understandably, COVID is the hot topic and where a lot of the energy and efforts are going, I think. But I think those of you who are involved, drug-induced liver injury is a I'll call it the bread and butter of drug safety, and something that we're always trying to find better ways of following up on signals. A lot of times these things come up with a case report or two, right? And then you're trying to look for some sort of corroborating evidence, to better understand whether those signals are a true risk. So anyway, I came to this group to see if there are other people interested in that particular area. And I'll just stop there, and I'm happy to follow up with anybody who would be interested in trying to figure out if the to me it's so gratifying to see what this community has become. When that video of Patrick earlier congratulating him on this new becoming a fellow in the American College of Medical Informatics, I think it was, that to me, it's just like, I I was clapping along because I've watched this program evolve over a lot of years, and it's just amazing to me to see how this community has grown and the set of tools and what it's doing. And so anyway, kudos to all of you, and I'll stop there.
Thanks, Judy. I know there are some other hands raised, but before anything, I mean, I think this takes us to another topic, which is like how do we prioritize which are the topics of future collaborations within the community. As you mentioned, now in the phenotype team, so the priority is COVID, and it's been the priority for some time in the whole community, I would say. But then, I mean, from now we need to start also prioritizing other things, and how do we move from COVID to other things, no? And I think what you're mentioning, I'm sure there is a big interest. I mean, the community is so big, I'm pretty sure there are people interested in what you've just mentioned. But how do we get together? How do we find the space to, I think the forums is a good place to start an idea, and the working groups. But then obviously, I mean, if we prioritize a topic, we can see what we can do, right? And we've seen that with COVID, once everybody was on the same page with COVID, how much we were able to do. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on also how we prioritize the future topics of collaborations. I'm seeing there's some hands. I'm sorry because I haven't. Yes.
Hello.
Sorry if you heard your
Hi.
name.
Yeah. So I have been following the Odyssey since last year, but I joined a lot of symposium workshop. I'm really, really impressed. So I'm a associate professor actually in the biostatistics department at Emory. However, I spend 80% of my time at a VA. So recently I've been working on a project called polycystic kidney disease in the VA space, and looking at there are about 12,000 called ADPKD patients. So, and it's really interesting. However, VA doesn't have all the Odyssey tools implemented in the system. So we're being using some low tech like SQL and other things. So I'm really interested in studying ADPKD disease. It's autism dominant polycystic kidney disease. It's a genetic disease. It's fairly rare, but with large databases, it's a really good tool to study. I'm really interested in studying ADPKD in the Odyssey network, expanding from the VA. I don't know where to start. So this is the first group I joined. I'm trying to see, what's a good place to start this. So that's one thing. The second thing is I teach a lot of master students. And so, I think Odyssey, if we work out a way, a lot of students will be interested in helping out. At least my students, I have about 30 to 60 students. So a question would be how, and we can get students to be interested and involved in this type of studies. And they usually can do projects for about a year in their master program. And I also want to talk about funding. So based on my ADPKD project of the VA-EHR, I have been writing like a foundation grants, like there is a PKD foundation. Actually, I was funded to do that. Not really Odyssey, but it's just based on the VA-EHR and some NIH study cohorts. Now I'm working on a R21 grant based on the VA cohort and some NIH. I think this is really a doable thing. We got a pretty decent score for the first try, although it was not funded. So I think those could be ways of getting funding. I can see that like expanding my VA ADPKD cohort and into the OHDSI that could really strengthen some aspects. Those are some of my thoughts. I'm really interested in looking a place to start. So I just like, this is a wonderful, it's a wonderful space, but I don't know where to start. Oh, what I'm really focusing on right now for the ADPKD is to predict the kidney function decline for the patients, because the declining speed of patients among ADPKD patients, they vary a lot. So even having the same genetic makeup, and they still have a lot of variation. So my current focus is a prediction on the kidney function decline speed, and also help the clinical trials to identify proper patients to recruit. So that's my current focus. But I would be really interested in, participating in the community and work on this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually thinking, is there a working group on prediction? I think so.
Yeah, there is a modeling. I talked to those folks. I think before getting that modeling, there are a lot of other things to get ready. And then the models, we can try different things, develop new ones. But for me, the major effort is before the modeling itself.
So one suggestion, and I'm sure there are like a lot of different ways that you can initiate your work. You have a very, very interesting question. And what I've seen to be quite useful is like taking advantage of the forum, putting a post about like a potential study and calling for collaboration. Even like you can always like use one of the community calls to bring your idea, maybe like even like on the 16th to just try to initiate, so you can lead and initiate the work to putting together like some interested groups of people to start thinking about the overall structure and skills and what's needed and what not, and like a protocol or a skeleton of the protocol to bring it up to like a broader group and teams, like for example presenting it in the PLP group or other working groups, or anything that is relevant to you. So I think like you can lead it, you can move it forward, and I can see Lana is saying that early research career group is another place that you can ask for. And it seems that you have a lot of students who can actually like take the advantage through that study, or like to get familiarized with OHDSI and become like proficient and help you with your project, and then hopefully in other aspects of the work. But any other suggestion? That's Mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna one successful approach that newcomers in the community have taken in moving forward their own clinical questions, because there are lots of very interesting clinical questions that we could be tackling, is starting by making a general post on the OHDSI forums, which gets read by most of the community, introducing who you are, the type of, the clinical question that you're interested in, what types of populations in terms of data sources you are interested in collaborating with, and providing kind of an open invitation to build a small team to formalize sort of both the protocol, what you want to be studying, and the implementation of the protocol for executing across the community. And that takes, it does take a team of volunteers in order to have all those skills. But in general, if there's, a good idea, people are more than willing to help.
Thanks. That sounds really good. So I'll try that.
Thank you, Mark. I think there is also Roy, Matthew.
Hi, all. Thank you. I'm also actually curiously enough, I'm a VA investigator as well. I happen to be a nephrologist, so Shang, that's a lot of my areas of interest is what you've been talking about. But just to kind of piggyback off of your points, we do have a lot of, I mean, the VA, as I'm sure everyone here is already aware, has converted much of their data into the OMOP format, and they've been collaborating a lot with creating an OMOP instance of the VA data. The challenge for us has always been that it's disconnected from the rest of the Odyssey communities because of the the need for information security, and so the VA does keep a sort of firewall between its data and the rest. So there's a big delay in getting a lot of the current tools that Odyssey has into the VA environment. So, and that unfortunately for individual investigators, we have very little control over that. So a piggyback question to what's been asked is, one of the things that would be good is if for people like us who have access to data like VA that have, at least silos of data that look kind of like the larger Odyssey community, are there ways to sort of do parallel projects, even if they're not perfectly, together, but have a similar idea where we can have a collaborator in the Odyssey community that's doing a similar question and then do sort of a combined approach and, provide the data separately from two different data sets and, try to get, approach answers from that approach.
So I would like to say that it is now almost possible to execute the entire Odyssey tool stack on some of the development servers within Vinci, which has access to the whole VA data warehouse. So I would certainly caution against trying to do things in parallel. The idea of kind of writing once that will deploy both within the VA and across the Odyssey network is probably a more efficient approach. If you're interested in using kind of the Odyssey tool stack against the VA data warehouse, then reach out to me or Scott or Michael Matheny, and we can show you how to get things to execute. It did take a while to get that pipeline all set up, but it seems to be working.
That's great. That's great to hear because, I recently moved institutions, so I'm still waiting to get my Vinci access back. So I haven't had a chance to look at the Odyssey, the OMOP community in a while, so in about a few months. So, but that's great to hear because that was one of the biggest hindrances to not have the current tools available. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Mark, that's music to my ears.
Yeah, no, and it's and it's a great resource to the Odyssey community in general. The VA has been traditionally one of the largest national supporters of large-scale observational research because of the underlying huge population that the VA takes care of and its mandate to provide great healthcare. So it's not only good for you VA investigators, it's also good for the rest of us in the community because we now have more a very large and engaged partner. So I need to thank you guys for putting in that time. I know it's a difficult system to work in occasionally.
Thank you, Mark. I think we're almost it's almost the time, but I think maybe Asieh, we were too ambitious with all the topics we wanted to cover today. But it's great to hear from all of you. So maybe we can still, I don't know, is there anybody who wants to say anything before we close, or Asieh, I don't know if you want to.
We have 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Ming. Oh, we've missed.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I just
Hi.
want to say hi to everyone because today is my first time to join this community. I'm kind of I'm kind of very excited about this opportunity. Again, my name is Ming Huang. I come from the Real World Evidence Research Group within Jazz Pharmaceutical. My personal background is utilize the machine learning technique to generate real-world evidence based on the real-world big data to facilitate the clinical development, outcome research, and something like that. So I look forward to the opportunity to work the different work group. I think it's very great, excellent setting for collaboration. Yeah, that's what I'm I'm trying to say.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Is there any final words? I'm really sorry we're running out of time, and I think we need more time to continue this type of session, right? I think it was great, but I don't want to leave anybody here who wants to say something. There's no last words. Asieh, do you want to?
No, it's been great. Thank you so much. Like Mark, Karen, Jody, everyone, because like everyone's like said new ideas, new words. Like I learned a lot, and looking forward to working with all of you. Like and talking again very soon.
Yeah, let's use the working groups maybe as a space to continue these discussions, because I think this is very interesting. It's a pity to cut the session right now, but we'll keep in touch definitely. Thank you everybody for participating.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
much.
Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.